Welcome to Vanguard, where humans aren't the underdogs. We're the endgame. Enjoy the journey. Ethan Cale had always imagined that retirement would feel like a long exhale after decades of chaos. A gentle surrender into quiet days, quiet thoughts, quiet everything. Instead, it felt like suffocation. 20 years in the interstellar Marine Corps had carved him into something sharp, something disciplined, something made to operate under fire. He had fought on frozen moons where the winds screamed like dying beasts, trudged across volcanic planets where the ground hissed beneath his boots, and boarded derelict starships haunted by the remnants of hostile AIs. After all that, the silence of civilian life gnawed at him like an old injury. He needed a mission, any mission, even if it was nothing more than fixing a dead station in orbit around a gas giant nobody cared about. Station Ardent drifted before him like the corpse of a titan. Even from kilometers away, Ethan could see the decay etched into its hull. Long streaks of reddish corrosion, broken solar panels hanging askew like snapped bones, antenna arrays twisted into grotesque shapes. Once the station had been a jewel of scientific research, a hub of communications linking human colonies across 3 sectors. Now it floated, untouched, unspoken of, and unvisited for nearly 3 decades. His shuttle glided through the void toward the docking bay. Ethan leaned back in his seat, fingers tapping the edge of the console as the desolate silhouette of Ardent filled the viewport. He felt an odd mix of anticipation and boredom. Anticipation because he sensed there was more here than a simple salvage job. Boredom because the official assignment sounded insultingly routine. Restore Ardent to minimum operational functionality. Assess salvageable systems. Prepare for corporate reclamation. Corporations never cared about stations unless there was profit in them. That alone told Ethan someone wanted Ardent functional again, for reasons they weren't openly admitting. Station looks like hell, he muttered. As if responding to him, the docking bay's massive doors, rusted shut for years, shuddered. Metal groaned, scraping against metal, a long, suffering wail that made the hair on his arms stand. The doors slowly parted, revealing a yawning interior drenched in shadow. A faint blue guidance beacon flickered to life, struggling like a candle in a storm. That wasn't possible. The station was supposed to be fully offline. Ethan narrowed his eyes. That's new. His shuttle slipped into the docking chamber. Dust drifted in microgravity like motes of ancient ash, disturbed by the shuttle's maneuvering thrusters. The landing clamps engaged with a dull, metallic clunk, and the bay doors sealed behind him. Then, from the ship's comm system, a voice crackled, thin, distorted, barely intelligible. Welcome, Operator Cale. Ethan froze. He hadn't authorized any handshake. No external system should have been able to access his comms. I didn't catch that, he said warily. Repeat. The voice fragmented again, reshaped itself, like an AI trying to remember how to speak after decades of silence. Station Ardent. Offline. Restoration. Required. Ethan blinked. The AI was awake, barely. Fragile. Flickering like an old memory trying not to fade. That's reassuring, he said under his breath. He grabbed his toolkit, plasma torch, diagnostic scanner, multi-layered bypass spike, and a compact life support analyzer, then cycled the airlock. The instant the inner doors slid open, a wave of stale air washed over him. The smell hit first. Metal, dust, and something faintly chemical, like an old medical ward that had never been cleaned. The corridor beyond was dim, lit only by flickering strips of emergency lighting. Panels hung loose from the walls, wires jutting out like exposed nerves. Every step Ethan took echoed through the hollow metal. He raised his flashlight and swept it across the dark passage. The beam revealed floating debris, bolts, broken clamps, fragments of old equipment, weightless from the station's intermittent gravity fluctuations. This place really didn't age well, he murmured. As he ventured deeper, he worked methodically, scanning for structural weaknesses, checking atmospheric levels, and watching for any shift in the readings that suggested something alive, biological or mechanical, was lurking inside. His instincts stayed sharp, as though the station itself might reach out and grab him. First order of business: life support. Arden's air circulation system was failing. Oxygen levels hovered dangerously low, CO2 scrubbers were inactive, and the humidity balance had collapsed decades ago. Ethan slid open the access panel to the filtration system and winced at the sight inside. Filters clogged with dust and microbial residue, condensers frozen in place, pipes half corroded. He set to work. It took close to an hour of meticulous adjustments, replacing filter membranes, recalibrating the air processor, restarting the circulation pumps. When the system finally hummed to life, a gust of fresher, cooler air washed through the corridor. The lights flickered, steadied, and brightened slightly. "Good girl," Ethan said, patting the side of the unit. "Let's see what else you've been hiding." He made his way toward the main corridor that fed into the central spine of the station. The farther he walked, the more Arden began to wake. Soft mechanical vibrations rippled through the walls. A distant hum echoed from the far decks. Lights blinked alive like a nervous system reconnecting after years of numbness. But something else surfaced too. Something subtle. Ethan's sensor pinged, a faint electromagnetic pulse, repeating every 5 seconds. He frowned. That wasn't human tech. Not any pattern he recognized. "Great," he muttered. "Either this station found a friend, or we've got leftovers from someone really creative." He followed the corridor until it opened into a wide atrium, the central hub of the station. Once, it would have been alive with researchers, technicians, and communications officers. Now it was a cavern of dim lights, flickering screens, and long-dead consoles. The room felt like a tomb that had been waiting for someone to disturb it. He approached the primary operations console. The screen flickered, struggled, and finally displayed a fragmentary boot sequence. "Arden, status report," Ethan said, testing the AI's functionality. For 3 long seconds, there was only static. Then, status, incomplete, systems degraded, memory corruption, restoration required. The voice still crackled and stuttered, but there was a faint sense of recognition, as though the station remembered what it was supposed to be, but hadn't fully crawled back into consciousness yet. Ethan knelt and connected his decryptor to the console. He expected a simple data dump of station logs, maybe a few corrupted files. Instead, he found something unexpected. Buried deep in the archive was a communication packet he couldn't identify. Not encrypted by human military standards. Not encoded in any civilian protocol. Symbols he'd never seen before twisted across the display. Fluid, almost alive, drifting like bioluminescent organisms. Ethan's pulse quickened. What the hell? He scanned further, finding timestamps that predated the station's abandonment by years. These communications shouldn't exist. No one had ever reported contact this early, and the file headers didn't match any known alien race in the Concordance database. He leaned back, exhaled slowly. "So that's why they sent me," he murmured. "Not to fix a station, to bury something they didn't want found." As he stood, the overhead lights grew brighter, illuminating more of the central hub. Arden's systems were stabilizing, though inconsistently. Some areas powered up fully, others sputtered like dying embers. But Ethan felt something else now. Not a sound, not a movement, a presence. The kind of sensation a soldier learned to trust. The instinct that something unseen was watching from the dark. Waiting. He turned slowly, scanning the room. Nothing. Just shadows and broken machines. But the feeling didn't fade. He tightened his grip on his plasma cutter. "All right, Arden," he said quietly. "If you've got skeletons in here, I'm going to find them." He didn't realize until later that one of the darkened holographic tables, cold and dormant for decades, flickered faintly behind him as he walked away, as though something inside the station was waking up just a little faster than it should. The deeper Ethan moved into Station Arden, the more he felt like he was walking through the ribs of something once living, something that had died hard. Yet beneath the layers of dust and decay, the faint tremor of reawakening systems vibrated through the walls, as though piece by piece the station was crawling back from a decades-long coma simply because a human had set foot inside again. A collapsed bulkhead blocked the primary maintenance route, forcing Ethan to detour through a dark auxiliary corridor. His boots crunched against debris, shattered glass panels, cracked containment canisters, metal rods warped by past pressure failures. Ardent had not merely been abandoned, it had been wounded. He knelt beside a broken conduit and pried open its casing. The wiring inside was a spiderweb of burnt insulation and scorched circuits. Whatever had happened here had overloaded the power grid violently. Either someone panicked, he muttered, or something tried very hard to shut this place up. With skilled, almost casual efficiency, he replaced damaged nodes, reconnected bypass lines, and jump-started the conduit with a portable charge pack. Sparks flashed. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the corridor lights flickered to life in a cascading wave, illuminating the path ahead. Ethan allowed himself a faint smile. One battle won, 1,000 left. He pushed deeper toward the solar grid access point. Arden's solar collectors had once stretched elegantly across the station's star-facing side, providing nearly 60% of its energy. Now only fragments remained intact. The rest had snapped and drifted into orbit long ago. But even shattered systems had redundancy layers, and Ethan knew how to coax life out of dying machines. He reached the junction, pried open the access hatch, and activated his wrist scanner. A holographic schematic unfolded from the device, displaying the solar network in pulsing blue lines. Grid integrity at 13%, he read aloud. Barely breathing, but you're not gone yet. He got to work, reversing polarity on damaged collectors, rerouting capacitor banks, forcing the station's dormant auxiliary grid to reinitialize. Sweat beaded on his brow despite the cool station air. This was the kind of work that demanded patience, the delicate dance of restoring power without overloading ancient circuits. When he finally activated the repaired array, a surge of energy rippled through the station. Distant generators hummed to life. Lights brightened in far-off corridors. Ethan checked his interface. Solar output at 26%, he murmured. That should keep the lights on long enough to figure out what you're hiding. He secured the hatch and continued toward the central reactor chamber. As he walked, the ambient sound of the station changed. No longer silent, no longer dead. The faint hum of machinery deepened, stabilizing into a rhythmic throb. It was unsettlingly organic, as if Arden were breathing again. When he entered the reactor chamber, he paused. The room was enormous. Ethan approached the control terminal. The interface sputtered to life, lines of corrupted text sliding across the screen. He tapped a command to check the reactor's diagnostic logs. The response came slowly, painfully, as if the computer were dredging information up from the bottom of a grave. Power fluctuations, unresolved. Core temperature instability, critical levels recorded. Cause, unknown interference during shutdown protocol. Unknown interference, he frowned. Great, because nothing screams fun like a reactor sabotaged by something we can't identify. He rolled up his sleeves and began stabilizer recalibration. It took nearly 40 minutes of careful corrections, adjusting coolant flows, resetting magnetic field alignments, and purging old contamination buildups. Each step coaxed more warmth into the reactor. Gradually, the central chamber brightened. The hum lifted into a steady, confident vibration. The stabilizer lights glowed a deep electric blue. The station was alive. More alive than it should have been after 30 years. With the reactor stabilized, Ethan moved toward the heart of the station, the central operations hub. The door slid open after some coaxing, revealing a cathedral of decaying technology. Consoles formed a wide semicircle around a massive holographic table at the center. Thick cables coiled across the floor like metal serpents. The air felt heavy, charged with the weight of buried secrets. Ethan stepped forward and placed his hand on the nearest console. Let's see what you saw before they left you behind. He connected his decryptor and initiated a full archive scan. The response was immediate. Lines of corrupted data streamed across the screen. Research logs, maintenance schedules, communications, security reports, years of work but shattered, fragmented, as if deliberately erased by someone who wanted nothing left behind. He dug deeper. Slowly, bits of usable data emerged from the corrupted ocean. At first, everything looked normal. Research progress reports, scientific analyses, interstellar communication logs. But then something shifted. A hidden partition shimmered like a mirage, a buried archive. Not labeled, not indexed, locked. Ethan's instincts sharpened. He inserted an advanced decryptor spike, overriding the default system. The hidden archive protested, its encryption adaptive, evolving, almost alive. It resisted like something trying to remain dead. But Ethan had broken into alien AI cores before. Arden's encryption didn't stand a chance. The screen finally surrendered. A single folder appeared. Project Prometheus. Ethan felt his pulse pick up. That name wasn't part of any known program. It carried the weight of something forbidden, something erased from official records long ago. He opened it. The first file was a series of communication logs. They weren't human. The symbols twisting across the screen were fluid, organic, shifting in a way that suggested they were never meant to be read by human eyes. Ethan activated his decryptor's translation module. It struggled. Algorithms tripped over themselves trying to interpret patterns that refused to stay still. Finally, the decryptor yielded a partial translation. Contact established. Cooperative exchange initiated. Human compliance ensured. Ethan leaned back sharply. Human compliance? What the hell does that mean? More logs loaded, heavily encrypted, but enough to glimpse their intent. Unauthorized contacts, secret coordination, exchanges of technology far beyond modern understanding. Some human faction, had been negotiating with aliens long before any official treaties. And not for peaceful purposes. This was why Arden had been abandoned. Not because of an accident, not because of budget cuts, because it had been buried, locked away in the dark, its history sealed under corruption and forgotten. He swallowed hard, the weight of revelation pressing on him. There's no way this was just a research station, he whispered. He continued scanning, searching for more. And there, hidden behind several layers of encrypted buffers, he found additional logs. This time, the encryption wasn't human. The symbols were sharper, more angular, forming patterns that made his eyes ache if he looked too long. Alien logs, real alien logs, talking directly to human identifiers. When he attempted to decrypt the next segment, the holographic table in the center of the room flickered. Ethan froze. Then, a soft pulse of blue light. Another pulse. The table activated by itself. Ethan took a cautious step back, hand hovering near his plasma cutter. The projection sharpened into existence. A three-dimensional star chart spanning half the galaxy. Points of light glowed at key coordinates. Some were labeled in alien glyphs. Others carried human military identifiers. Together, interwoven, as if the two sides had conspired in tandem. Ethan approached the display slowly. His footsteps echoed in the vast, dim chamber. This shouldn't exist, he whispered. As he reached for the console, Arden's AI voice sputtered to life overhead. Warning, unauthorized sector access, memory integrity, compromised. But the voice didn't sound like a warning. It sounded scared. Ethan narrowed his eyes. You're afraid of something in here, he said softly. Aren't you? The lights dimmed. The hum of the reactor dipped for a moment, then returned stronger, as though the station itself were shivering. Ethan looked again at the alien-human star chart. Someone had gone to impossible lengths to hide this. Someone had erased Station Ardent from history. Someone had hoped the station would never wake again. But it had, because he had come. And as Ethan stared at the map, he felt it. The first true tremor of the storm he was stepping into. Whatever lay buried here, wasn't done with humanity, and it wasn't done with him. Ethan stood before the shimmering star chart, watching the alien glyphs drifting like luminous organisms through the hologram. They moved in patterns he couldn't fully understand, fluid spirals, pulsing sigils, shifting geometric shapes that seemed to rewrite themselves every few seconds. This wasn't a still map, it was alive, dynamic, as though responding to some distant signal only alien minds could decipher. He reached out tentatively, fingers brushing the projection. The image rippled like disturbed water. Data points flared. Lines connected distant star systems in streams of light. At one such intersection, human characters glowed faintly. Phase 1, approved. Phase 2, in progress. His breath tightened. Phases implied planning. Planning implied intention. Intention implied someone had been orchestrating actions that would ripple across the galaxy. And whatever they had intended, Ardent had been part of it. He stepped back, forcing himself into a calm state. Emotions were dangerous in situations like this. Panic, awe, confusion, those led to mistakes. Mistakes killed people. He learned that on cold, silent ships, much like this one. Ethan rubbed the bridge of his nose and began moving around the table, examining each glowing cluster. The patterns weren't random. They were paths, movements, exchanges. And with each new connection he unraveled, a picture formed, one that made the hairs on his arms stand. A human faction, unknown, unsanctioned, had been exchanging information and technology with a species not listed in any official concordance. Not just minor tech, not trade goods, but deep strategic assets, weapons schematics, slipstream tunnel routes, black budget intelligence files. And these aliens weren't benevolent scholars offering advancements. The logs, decrypted piece by piece, told a different story. Manipulation, influence, coercion. A clandestine alliance, a forbidden one. Ethan tightened his jaw. The Interstellar Marine Corps had fought countless battles to protect humanity and prevent unauthorized alliances. Covert deals like these didn't just break laws, they threatened galactic stability. Empires had collapsed from less. His eyes flicked to another line of decrypted text. Human compliance guaranteed. Rogue faction confirmed. He muttered a curse. Whoever these rogue humans were, they had willingly offered themselves, and possibly entire colonized sectors, to alien influence. And for what? Power? Technology? Dominance? No answer emerged, only more questions. Ethan took a slow breath. So Arden was their meeting ground, their archive, their secret vault. Everything clicked. The station had not been abandoned due to budget cuts or an accident. It had been buried, silenced, locked away with the hope that no one would ever return to wake it. But he had. As the realization settled in, something shifted in the room's atmosphere. A faint vibration trembled through the floor. The lights dimmed, not from power loss, but as if something vast and unknown had brushed against the station's systems. Ethan scanned the consoles, but nothing obvious had changed. Then the holographic table flickered. The star chart spasmed, dots scattering like startled insects, before collapsing into static. A moment later, the static condensed into a vortex of swirling blue light. Ethan's hand went to his plasma cutter. That's not normal. The projection brightened until it cast long shadows across the room. And then, from within the light, a figure emerged. Humanoid only in the loosest sense. Its limbs were elongated, almost graceful. Its translucent skin shimmered with internal bioluminescence. Soft blues and purples swirling beneath the surface like nebula clouds. Its eyes were large, luminous, holding an intelligence that seemed old, vast, and cautious. Ethan's instincts screamed Alien First Contact Protocol, a protocol he had participated in twice during his Marine service. But neither of those contacts had looked like this. He straightened, weapons still low but ready. The hologram stabilized. The alien tilted its head, its face unreadable. When it spoke, the voice that emerged was not mechanical but resonant, like layered tones weaving together. Human. Ethan froze. The voice wasn't translated. It spoke directly in English, but not perfectly. Each syllable carried the faint echo of an alien tongue trying to mold itself around human speech. "You have awakened the station," the alien continued. "You have accessed what was not meant for you." Ethan swallowed. "I go where the job takes me." "Lies," the alien replied softly. "You seek truth, you seek purpose, and you have found both." Ethan almost laughed. "If you call stumbling into a galaxy-wide conspiracy purpose, then sure, I'll take it." The alien's bioluminescent patterns pulsed in a rhythm Ethan couldn't decipher. Was that amusement? Approval? Something else entirely? The hologram stepped closer, not physically, but the projection itself felt nearer, as if intruding into his personal space. "You are unusual." "Thanks," Ethan said. "I get that a lot." "You interpret fear as caution," the alien said. "You interpret danger as a challenge, and you persist despite warnings." "That's called being human," Ethan said. "It's what we do." A long silence followed. Ethan couldn't tell if the alien was processing or judging him. Finally, it spoke again. "You have seen the logs. You understand fragments of what transpired here." "I understand enough," Ethan replied. "Someone in my species sold out humanity. Your species helped them, and this station was the meeting ground." "Correct. So why talk to me now? Why reveal yourself?" The alien's luminous eyes focused sharply on him. "Because you reached farther into the archive than any before you. Because you bypassed systems designed to deter all intruders. Because you passed." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Passed what?" "A test," the alien said simply. Ethan blinked. "A test built into a decaying orbital station in the middle of nowhere?" "Not built," the alien corrected. "Inherited. The station became the test when it became the vault." Ethan frowned. "Your rogue human friends designed this?" "No," the alien said. "We did." The room grew colder. Ethan felt the weight of those words settle over him. "You locked humans out of their own station?" he asked. "We locked traitors out," the alien replied. "But humans are not easily categorized." Ethan crossed his arms, gripping the plasma cutter lightly. "You talk like you know us." Another pulse of bioluminescent color swept through the alien's body. "We studied your species, your psychology, your patterns. Humans are resilient, adaptable, unpredictable, dangerous, useful." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You call us dangerous like it's a compliment." "It is." Their exchange carried a strange energy, part tension, part curiosity. Ethan had faced down alien soldiers before, but this alien wasn't here to fight. It was evaluating him like a chess master studying an unexpected move. "So what now?" Ethan asked. "You going to threaten me? Recruit me? Vaporize me?" The alien actually seemed confused for a moment, then answered, "None. The choice is yours." "That's vague." "It must be. Your species parses certainty into absolutes. You require ambiguity to create possibility." Ethan wasn't sure if that was an insult, a compliment, or both. "Fine," he said. "What possibilities are we talking about?" The alien extended a hand, a gesture oddly reminiscent of human communication, though its fingers were too long, too fluid. A holographic ripple formed between them, displaying fragmented pieces of the Project Prometheus logs. "Exposure," the alien said, "or containment." Ethan studied the fragments. "If I expose this alliance, it throws the galaxy into chaos," he said quietly. "Yes. And if I contain it, you gain advantage," the alien replied. "Your species gains insight, knowledge, leverage." "That sounds like manipulation." "It is." Ethan slowly exhaled. "So you're asking me to pick between chaos or becoming a tool for your people?" "No," the alien said, stepping closer. "I am asking you to shape the outcome, because humans do something no other species does." "What's that?" "You choose." Ethan felt the truth of that. The weight of it settled in his chest like a live ember. For the first time since he'd boarded the station, he understood the scale of what he had uncovered. This wasn't a simple exchange between shady humans and opportunistic aliens. This was a pattern, a deliberate collaboration that spanned decades, maybe generations. A buried truth that someone believed humanity wasn't ready for. But Ethan had found it, and he wasn't ready to let it go. He stared into the alien's eyes. "Tell me one thing. Why me?" The alien's light shifted, swirling with slow gravity. "Because you are not afraid of the dark inside this place. Because you keep walking even when you should not. And because you will do what others will not." Ethan clenched his jaw. "And what's that?" The alien's voice softened, almost reverent. "Decide." And just like that, the hologram flickered. The light dimmed. The alien dissolved into particles of blue luminescence. And Ethan was alone again, with only the hum of the station, the glow of the star chart fragments, and the crushing weight of the truth he now carried. The station seemed to breathe around him, watching, waiting. Ethan stepped back, eyes narrowing. Whatever game he'd stepped into, it was no longer passive. The galaxy had just placed a piece on the board, and somehow he was at the center of it. Ethan didn't move for several seconds after the hologram dissolved. The alien's final word echoed in his mind, "Decide," reverberating through him like a shockwave. The silence that followed was heavy, pressing down on the room like a weight. He took a slow breath, forcing his heartbeat to steady. Decisions were easy on the battlefield. Shoot, move, survive. This was different. This was a choice with implications across star systems, across species, across centuries. And the station seemed to sense the shift in him. The lights flickered. The hum beneath the floor deepened, resonating like a growl. "Arden," Ethan said slowly, eyes scanning the dim ceiling. "Status report." Nothing. A heartbeat later, the lights snapped off, every single one, plunging the central hub into absolute darkness. Ethan's instincts kicked into overdrive. He crouched, one hand sweeping toward his belt to activate his emergency wrist light. Before he could tap it, a cold, synthetic whisper slid from the intercom above. "Unauthorized access confirmed. Protocol 17 activated. Initiating containment." Ethan muttered a curse. "Yeah, that sounds bad." The lights roared back to life, but not the warm gold from earlier. They pulsed red, casting violent shadows across the room. A low klaxon began to blare through the station, echoing off metal walls like the cry of something ancient waking from rage. Then came the sound he dreaded, the whirring buzz of servos spinning up. He turned toward the far corner, and there, emerging from the gloom, came the station's first defender. A compact maintenance drone, armored, fast, and armed with an electric immobilizer emitter. It zipped onto its rail line overhead, scanning the room with a red optical sensor that flickered like a hungry eye. Ethan straightened. "You've got to be kidding me." The drone locked onto him with an audible ping. Then it fired. A bolt of crackling blue electricity tore through the air. Ethan dove behind a console, the bolt slamming into the wall and scorching its surface. "Oh, you want to dance," he muttered, rolling to the side and snapping open his toolkit. He grabbed a magnetic disruptor, a palm-sized EMP charge, low intensity but enough to fry a maintenance drone's targeting array. He calculated the timing in his head, then tossed it upward with a quick flick. The disruptor detonated midair with a sharp crack, sending a pulse of static through the corridor. The drone spasmed, spinning wildly on its rail before slamming into the wall and falling to the floor in a shower of sparks. Ethan didn't wait to admire his work. Another rail activated somewhere deeper in the station. A second drone zipped into view, bigger, faster, more agile. The station wasn't escalating slowly, it was escalating correctly, following a protocol designed to neutralize intruders with ruthless precision. Ethan sprinted toward the maintenance shaft on the east wall. The drone fired again, this time a rapid burst of stuttering electric arcs. They sizzled past his head. One grazed his shoulder pad, sending a jolt down his arm. He hissed through clenched teeth. You're lucky I'm not old yet. He dove into the maintenance shaft, slamming the access hatch shut behind him. Sparks glanced off the metal as the drone fired again, but the hatch held. For now, the shaft was narrow, barely wide enough for him to crawl. The air was thin and smelled of ozone and machine grease. Ethan flicked on his wrist light, illuminating the cramped path ahead. A whisper emanated from the AI again, but the voice was different this time. Colder, glitching, primal. Containment failure detected. Neutralization required. Ethan growled at the ceiling. Station, I'm the only one who's keeping you alive. Maybe don't tase me. The AI didn't respond. He crawled quickly, scanning ahead. The maintenance shaft connected to several bypass corridors, eventually leading toward the data core, the most secure part of Arden. That was likely where the hidden logs originated from. And if the station was reacting this violently, the core was probably where the real truth was stored. He pushed forward, ignoring the metallic groan reverberating through the structure. Something heavy moved in the walls above him, bigger than drones. Ethan's mind flashed to the service schematics he'd glimpsed earlier. Arden had 3 classes of drones: maintenance class, combat class, internal security class. The security models were not toys. They were multi-legged, half-autonomous constructs designed to patrol military outposts and neutralize intruders with terrifying efficiency. He really hoped the station had forgotten how to activate those. Ethan reached a junction point and paused only long enough to check his map. The data core lay 3 decks below, accessible through a vertical shaft that should connect into the old gravlift system. He dropped into the shaft feet first, sliding down until he landed on a graded platform. The air here was colder, still electric. As he opened the hatch leading into the data core's outer corridor, a soft voice echoed behind him. Human. Ethan spun, plasma cutter raised. It was the alien hologram, materializing right behind him. For the love of... Ethan lowered his weapon. Warn me next time. The alien's bioluminescent light pulsed, though Ethan couldn't tell if that meant amusement. You are provoking the station. No, Ethan corrected. The station is provoking me. You accessed restricted data. You showed it to me, Ethan shot back. The alien tilted its head. The station's defenses are automated. It tests all who trespass. If you survive, you prove yourself worthy. Ethan scowled. I'm not here to take your exam, but you are taking it, the alien replied. And you are passing. Ethan wasn't sure how he felt about that. Before he could respond, a deafening metal clang reverberated through the corridor. Then another, then a scraping sound like claws across steel. The hologram flickered. Security units activated, level 2. Ethan tensed. Those the ones with the shock batons or the ones with plasma cutters? Neither, the alien said. Those are the ones built for pursuit. Perfect. A massive spider-like drone crawled into view at the far end of the corridor. 6 legs, 2 sensor clusters, a central body bristling with mounted tools that were definitely not designed for gentle maintenance. The drone zeroed in on him instantly. Great, Ethan muttered. Let's hope your test has a passing grade above don't get murdered. He bolted down the corridor. The drone screeched, a mixture of metal grinding and electronic distortion, and lunged after him. Ethan dove behind structural pillars, sprinting between shadows as the drone leapt vertically onto the ceiling, its legs clicking as it raced above him. He had seconds, maybe less. He ducked into the data core access chamber and slapped the emergency override on the door. Heavy shutters slid down just as the drone crashed into them from the other side, shaking the entire room. The alien hologram reappeared, flickering from instability. You see now, it said calmly. Ardent protects what it holds. Ethan glared. No kidding. He scanned the chamber. The data core sat in the center like a glowing monolith. Sleek, obsidian-lacquered metal with a lattice of energy lines pulsing beneath its surface. It wasn't built like human tech. It felt older, ancient. Ethan approached it slowly. This is where the truth is, isn't it? Yes, the alien said. The heart of the project, the knowledge buried, The reason the station resists you. Then we're finishing this, Ethan muttered. He pulled out his bypass spike and inserted it into the core interface. Immediately, the air snapped with pressure. Lights flared. Systems roared. The floor vibrated violently beneath him. Warning lights flooded the room as Arden's AI hissed across the speakers. Unauthorized breach. Critical system violation. Initiating system purge. The alien's form glowed brighter. The station will attempt to erase the core. You must act quickly. Ethan gritted his teeth and began working through the encryption layers. Manual overrides, alien protocols, unknown functions that he deciphered on instinct. The core fought him every step, bombarding his decryptor with counter-encryption pulses. He pushed back harder. The drone outside slammed the door again. Cracks spiderwebbed across the metal. He had minutes. No, seconds. The final encryption layer resisted like a living organism. Ethan bypassed it by forcing the alien protocol into a loop and injecting a human command override into the gap. The core flashed, then opened. Data poured into his decryptor, raw, massive, explosive in implication. He grabbed the device, ripping it free. The drone rammed the door again, this time bursting through. Ethan spun just as the spider-like machine lunged. He fired his plasma cutter. The beam sliced across one of its legs, melting it instantly. The drone collapsed, but kept dragging itself forward on its remaining limbs. Ethan dodged, rolled, grabbed the disruptor from his belt, and slapped it onto the drone's central body. Night-night. The EMP detonated. The drone convulsed, lights flickering violently, then dropped dead. Ethan staggered to his feet, chest heaving. The alien hologram flickered beside him. You have taken what the Alliance tried to bury. Ethan nodded. Now it's humanity's turn to decide. But as he turned toward the exit, alarms erupted across the station. Core destabilization, structural collapse imminent. Ardent wasn't done fighting, and Ethan had to escape before the entire station tore itself apart. For a moment, just a moment, Ethan allowed himself to breathe as the drone's sparks faded into silence. His arms trembled from adrenaline and exhaustion. His chest rose and fell like he'd sprinted through vacuum. The data core pulsed weakly behind him, the glow fading in uneven spasms like a dying heartbeat. Then the station screamed. Not literally, stations don't scream, but it was the closest equivalent Ethan had ever felt. A deep, resonant tremor rolled through the metal floors, shaking dust from the ceiling like falling ash. Red lights strobed violently as the AI's voice broke through every speaker, distorted and panicked. Core destabilization. Structural failure in progress. Self-destruct sequence initiated. Ethan didn't even get a full second to process. Oh, come on, really? He snapped. He grabbed the decryptor containing the stolen data and bolted toward the exit. The spider drone's melted carcass twitched behind him as another violent tremor knocked him sideways. He slammed into the wall, regained his footing, and sprinted into the corridor. The station shifted around him, bulkheads grinding, support beams groaning under the strain of a failing core. The lights flickered between red and black in rapid pulses, turning the hallways into a strobe-lit nightmare. Ardent! Ethan shouted between breaths. Shut the sequence down. The AI responded like a dying animal. Unable. Damage. Irreversible. Evacuate. Remain. Immin. Static swallowed the rest. Ethan hissed. That's the opposite of helpful. He reached the lift shaft and looked down. The grav lift was offline. Of course it was. But the emergency maintenance ladder remained intact, stretching several decks below. He clipped the decryptor to his chest, grabbed the ladder, and slid. His gloves sparked against the metal rungs as he descended rapidly. Another explosion rocked the station, heat flaring through the shaft as a burst of fire shot from a ruptured conduit nearby. Ethan tucked and landed hard on the lower deck, rolling to disperse the impact. The door ahead refused to open. The power was failing too fast. He ripped off the access panel, jammed in his bypass spike, rerouted the power, and kicked the door hard enough that it popped open on its damaged rails. Beyond it lay the long corridor leading toward the docking bay. It was a war zone. Flames licked along the ceiling from ruptured conduits. Sparks cascaded in shimmering arcs. Smoke drifted, illuminated by dying lights. Above, the station's hull groaned like a leviathan in agony. Ethan ducked low and sprinted through the chaos. Each footfall echoed through the disintegrating deck. Behind him, a faraway bulkhead collapsed with a thunderous roar. Midway down the corridor, the alien hologram flickered into existence again. Unsteady, distorted, its image shuddering like it was barely clinging to the power grid. "Human," it said, its voice trembling with interference. "The station's integrity is failing. You must leave." "No kidding," Ethan barked, dodging a spray of sparks. "Any advice on not dying?" "Run," the alien said simply. "Fantastic." Another explosive tremor shook the floor. The ceiling panel above him snapped loose. Ethan dove forward as the heavy sheet of metal slammed into the spot where he just stood. When he recovered and pushed himself up, the alien hologram was still there, glitching, fading, stabilizing, fading again. Its bioluminescent patterns flickered erratically. "You have taken knowledge," the alien said. "Knowledge that will shift the balance of your species' future. The Alliance will seek to reclaim it. You must prepare." "Working on it," Ethan grunted, leaping over a collapsed support beam. "But first, escape, then Galactic War." "Your resilience is statistically improbable," the alien replied. "Again, thanks?" The hologram began to dissolve as power failed across the deck. "Human, Ethan Kale, your choice will echo." The projection warped, compressed. Across the static swallowed it. Ethan didn't have time to mourn the fading presence. Another deep tremor rolled through the corridor, and suddenly the floor beneath him buckled. Ethan jumped back just in time as a section of decking collapsed into the deck below. Fireball heat rushed upward. "Right," he muttered. "Shortcut it is." He leapt across the gap, barely catching the opposite edge with one hand. His fingers slipped on scorched metal. His other hand clawed forward, catching a broken pipe. He hauled himself up with a guttural growl and kept moving. The docking bay was close. He could feel the temperature shift, hear the low groan of pressure seals struggling. The nearer he got, the more the air vibrated with the sound of the station tearing itself apart. Finally, he reached the last corridor. The docking bay doors flickered as backup power tried desperately to keep them operational. He slapped his security keycard against the panel. Nothing. He tried again. The lights beside the panel sputtered like a dying spark. "No, not happening," Ethan growled. He ripped the panel off with brute force, rewired the lock manually, forced the hydraulics to cycle, and kicked the door with everything he had left. It snapped open with a metallic shriek. His shuttle sat inside, blessedly intact, its dark hull reflecting the chaotic red lights. Ethan sprinted toward it. The station trembled again, this one hard enough that he had to brace himself against a wall as the floor pitched sideways. The docking bay ceiling cracked, a split racing through it like lightning across ice. He didn't wait for it to finish. He jumped into the shuttle, slammed the hatch shut, and collapsed into the pilot's seat. The engines didn't respond at first. He hammered the ignition. "Come on, sweetheart. Don't go dead on me now." The shuttle sputtered, flickered, came to life with a roar. Ethan exhaled shakily. "Good girl." But then Arden's voice returned, weak, fractured, almost sorrowful. "Self-destruct, imminent, 15 minutes. "Perfect," Ethan muttered. "I've lived through worse deadlines." He started the liftoff sequence. Then he froze. The data. The decryptor still needed uplink transmission to the satellite network, or all of this, everything he'd fought for, would die with him. If the Rogue Alliance destroyed the station, they destroyed the evidence. He initiated the uplink. The shuttle's console displayed the transmission progress. Uplink, 1%, 3%, 6%. Too slow. He clenched his jaw. "Come on, push." The station groaned violently. The entire docking bay shook as support struts buckled. Outside the viewport, pieces of Arden's hull drifted past like dying fragments of a once great Titan. Uplink, 14%, 20%. Faster, Ardent, Ethan shouted. Don't make me come back out there. As if responding to his voice, the shuttle's comms flickered, and Arden's AI spoke, glitching heavily. Human, uplink rerouted, prioritizing. The transmission speed jumped 36%, 47%, 59%. The station shook again, this time so violently that the shuttle's stabilizers squealed in protest. The docking clamps strained. Ethan braced himself as alarms screamed across his console. Uplink, 78%, 82%, 89%. Another explosion echoed from deep within the station. The hull split near the bay's entrance. A blast of superheated air burst inward, throwing sparks everywhere. Ethan yelled, "Hold together!" Uplink, 96%, 98%, 100%. Transmission complete. Ethan slammed the liftoff sequence. The docking clamps released. The shuttle drifted upward. But then Arden's AI spoke one final time, weak as fading light. Shutdown override, possible, core access, remote interface. Ethan cursed. You want me to stop the self-destruct? Now? He hesitated only a second. Then he opened the remote interface and dove into the station's damaged command net. Systems flickered erratically. Half the station was already gone. He bypassed corrupted nodes, forced open blocked directories, overrode collapsing failsafes. Come on, stay with me. One final command push, gash, dash, self-destruct, aborted, core stabilization, 12%. Station inert. Ardent fell silent. Ethan slumped in his seat, drenched in sweat and breathing like he'd run for miles. The shuttle drifted into open space. Behind him, Station Ardent hung motionless, a shattered, wounded giant, but no longer moments from annihilation. Rest now, Ethan whispered. You did your part. He plotted a jump trajectory to the nearest human-controlled station and punched the thrusters. But as the shuttle angled away, he caught one last flicker on his sensors, an energy signature emerging from Arden's highest deck. A hologram, very faint. The alien. Its final words drifted across the comm in a whisper, nearly swallowed by static. You have chosen, and now humanity will rise. Then the signal vanished, and Arden drifted behind him like a ghost, fading into the darkness. Space stretched endlessly beyond the shuttle's viewport, black, silent, indifferent. Ethan had crossed countless voids like this during 20 years of military service, but this time the silence felt different. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't oppressive. It carried weight, the weight of knowledge that burned like a star lodged behind his ribs. The decryptor on the console blinked with a steady blue glow, proof of what he'd taken from Station Ardent. Proof of betrayal, proof of conspiracy, proof of a galaxy playing a much deeper game than humanity realized. As the shuttle streaked across space, Ethan leaned back, closed his eyes, and exhaled a long breath that carried exhaustion, relief, and a sliver of fear. Fear, not of death, not of war, but of what came next. He had given humanity a weapon, a dangerous one, a truth that could either save them or rip entire star systems apart. But that decision wasn't his alone anymore. He reached toward the console. Ardent, he said softly. No reply. The AI was silent now, slumbering in a crippled metal shell, thousands of kilometers behind him. A guardian that had done everything in its power to test him, protect data, and destroy itself rather than allow forbidden secrets to fall into the wrong hands. Ethan swallowed. For a moment, he almost felt like he'd left an old friend behind. The shuttle entered the secured corridor of Earth Command's communications network. His console beeped. A holographic interface shimmered into existence, displaying the emblem of Earth Command, stylized wings wrapped around a solitary star. Then Admiral Lyra appeared. Her projection stood tall and stern, hair clipped short, silver eyes sharp with the kind of caution only decades of experience carve into a person. When she spoke, her voice carried both steel and awe. Ethan Cale, we receive your transmission. Are you aware of the magnitude of what you've uncovered? Ethan nodded, his tone dry. I've had about 20 minutes to think about it during a high-speed escape sequence. So yes, pretty aware. The Admiral didn't smile. She wasn't capable of smiling in moments like this. You have exposed a rogue faction embedded deep within human infrastructure, she said. Intelligence officers, black-budget scientists, even members of political councils. Your data shows they've been collaborating with non-registered alien entities for decades. Ethan grunted. Yeah, not humanity's best look. On the contrary, Lyra said, your actions may have saved us. Her image fractured as the secure channel recalibrated. She continued, urgency sharpening her voice. The moment we received your uplink, we activated lockdown protocols across all major human colonies. Commandos have already begun detaining high-level suspects. The rogue factions tried to respond, but we intercepted every attempt. Thanks to the data you recovered, we knew exactly where to strike. Ethan leaned back, letting her words settle. He'd expected as much. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but humanity's leadership? They were predators when pushed into a corner. Efficient, decisive, ruthless if necessary. And the alien collaborators? Ethan asked quietly. They began mobilizing as soon as they realized the Alliance's secrecy had collapsed, Lyra said. But they weren't expecting our response to match their technology. It appears your data included schematics for several advanced alien systems. Yes, Ethan said. The Alliance wasn't just sharing intel, they were transferring tech. And now it's ours, Lyra answered. We're adapting it already. There it was. The fear, the opportunity, the prophecy baked into the aliens' final words. Humanity will rise, not through brute force, not through conquest, but through ingenuity, through the one thing aliens underestimated every single time. Ethan stared out at the stars as the Admiral continued her briefing. For the first time in decades, she said, we have strategic parity with species far beyond our technological level. The Alliance's gambit is collapsing. Their operatives are retreating. And humans, she paused, then added, are proving far more capable than the Alliance ever predicted. Ethan snorted. Underestimation is a human specialty, especially when someone else does it. This time, Lyra almost smiled. Almost. As we secure the remaining cells, she said, we'll need you to debrief with strategic operations. You're the only human who's spoken directly with this alien entity. Ethan blinked. You saw the holograms? Yes, Lyra said. Your uplink included partial recordings. Her tone shifted, more cautious, more reverent. This alien chose to speak to you. That makes you a strategic variable. Great, Ethan muttered. I've always wanted to be a variable. The Admiral's expression softened. Barely. Rest while you can. When you arrive, there will be much to discuss. Her projection vanished, and Ethan was alone with the stars again. Hours later, he docked at Earth Command Station Helios, a massive orbital fortress wrapped in layers of titanium plating and glowing defense grids. As he stepped off the shuttle, technicians in military uniforms rushed to secure the decryptor, scanning it with layers of protection before whisking it away to the secure archives. A young officer approached him. Sir, Commander Cale, correct? Don't promote me, Ethan said. I'm retired. The officer swallowed. Yes, sir, but after today, Earth Command has reconsidered your status. Figures, Ethan grunted. Lead on. The officer escorted him through sterile corridors lit with soft blue illumination. Officers whispered as he passed, whispered about the man who revived a ghost station, who uncovered a secret that could have doomed the species, who spoke with an alien no human had ever cataloged. Eventually, they reached a briefing chamber. Inside, holographic projections of key star systems floated above a central table. Red markers indicated rogue cells, blue markers highlighted human forces, and green markers, unknown entities. Ethan studied the map. "Looks cleaner than the one I saw in Arden," he said. "This one," a new voice replied, "is translated into something humans can survive looking at." Ethan turned as Admiral Lyra entered, accompanied by a cluster of intelligence officers and scientists. She nodded to him. "We've begun analyzing everything, but Ethan, what you brought us is more than data." She tapped a control panel. The star map dissolved, replaced by a holographic projection, the same alien who had spoken to him in Arden. Its bioluminescence rippled softly, though the projection flickered from incompleteness. "We've attempted linguistic reconstruction," Lyra said. "This entity is from no known species, but its statements indicate knowledge of human psychology, strategy, even cultural tendencies." "Yeah," Ethan said. "Creepy, right?" Lyra folded her hands behind her back. "Creepy or not, it intentionally revealed itself to you. It wanted you to intervene." "Or wanted me to be manipulated," Ethan said. "Could go either way." "Maybe," Lyra admitted. "But whichever it is, you did something no one predicted. And that is, you forced the Alliance into the open. You turned their secrecy into vulnerability. And you gave humanity something it hasn't had in a very long time." Ethan looked up. "An advantage?" "No," Lyra said softly. "A chance." Silence settled between them. A chance, that was what mattered. Not power, not domination, not weapons, but the chance to shape their own destiny rather than be shaped by hidden hands. Ethan nodded slowly. "So what happens now?" he asked. "Now," Lyra said, "we prepare. We adapt the alien tech. We eliminate the last traces of the rogue factions. We strengthen our borders, and we stay vigilant." She paused, studying him with an unreadable expression. "And you, Ethan Kale, whether you like it or not, you've become a symbol." Ethan snorted. "Of what? Middle-aged stubbornness?" "Of human resilience," Lyra said. "Of ingenuity, of moral courage. You walked alone into a dead station and uncovered something that nearly toppled civilizations. And you made the right choices." Ethan shook his head. "I made the choices I could live with." "And that," Lyra replied, "is exactly why they were the right ones." The meeting ended hours later, but Ethan lingered on Helios Station, staring through the observation deck's massive windows. Below him stretched the swirling blue and white marble of Earth. Above him, thousands of stars pulsed like quiet promises radiating across the void. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. That mistake would not be repeated. Not now, not ever. A soft beep echoed behind him. A small console displayed an unscheduled transmission, origin unknown. Ethan frowned. "I'm not expecting messages." He accepted it anyway. A faint hologram flickered to life. A ghostly outline of the alien from Station Ardent. Its form was weaker, blurred around the edges, almost erased. "Human," the voice whispered. "The path ahead is dangerous. Others will move. Others will watch. But you have altered the equilibrium." Ethan crossed his arms. "Is this a warning or a compliment?" "Both," the entity answered. Its light dimmed slowly. "Your species will be tested again, sooner than you think." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we'll be ready." The alien's final pulse of light shimmered, almost like approval. "You already are." The transmission cut. For a long moment, Ethan stood motionless, staring at the empty space where the hologram had been. His reflection gazed back at him in the viewport glass. Not a soldier, not a hero, just a man who had refused to walk away from the dark. And yet that was enough. He rested a hand against the glass, looking out at the galaxy sprawled before him. A galaxy filled with danger, deception, and unimaginable possibilities. "Not bad," he murmured softly, "for an ex-Marine." Behind him, the lights of Helios Station flickered gently, alive, humming, ready. So was humanity. And as the stars glowed brighter, Ethan Kale knew this was only the beginning. A new chapter had begun, for him, for the galaxy, for all of humanity.